Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Nielsen Networking video. In the video ahead, I am going to combine two of the most popular categories we have on the channel, and those will be Linux and cybersecurity. And of course, you know, we combine the two all the time when we have our Kali Linux security tool series, or we do our Linux system administration series where, you know, there's a lot of overlap between those two subjects. So that said, in this video, we're going to be discussing what I consider to be the top 10 Linux command line networking tools that are going to be essential for anyone that is serious about Linux and cybersecurity. So whether you are a Linux system administrator or a pen tester, or you're simply looking to enhance your Linux skills, this video is going to be for you. So with that said, let's get on to the first command. All right, and before we get started on our first tool, let's go ahead and just make sure everyone's on the same page. For this video, I will be using Kali Linux. Every single tool I'm going to be showing you out of the top 10 here will come pre-installed with Kali Linux. That said, if you are on, Red Hat or Ubuntu or a Mac, whatever, that distribution or OS may or may not have these tools pre-installed. They are all compatible with all the Linux distributions and they're all available, but you may have to manually install them to actually run the tools. I think most of them should already be there, but just an FYI, I didn't want someone trying to, emulate what's going on in the video and get upset that it's not working and in the video it worked, what's going on? That's probably the reason. So that out of the way, let's get going. First command we're gonna go over is a simple one, I should say tool. And it's going to be ifconfig, which is really similar to ipconfig in that it shows you your interfaces. And here's our interface, ETH0. This is going to be our main interface right now. And this is going to be our loopback down here. But up here on ETH0, you're going to want to pay attention to this right here. This is going to be your IPv4 IP address right here. So you can see there's me. And then we got the IPv6 down here. And then you got your MAC address. And then you're gonna have some other statistics down here that I'm not gonna go into. So that's pretty much, honestly, all you're gonna worry about ifconfig now. That's kind of been, I don't wanna say replaced, but ifconfig's been a little deprecated, I think. I think it actually officially has been deprecated for IP, which I'm gonna show you next. But that's what it can do for you. And it actually is used during the boot up process of Linux to set up those interfaces while the operating system boots. And once it's booted up, you're either going to use it for troubleshooting, or you're probably going to use the next command, which I'm going to show you, which is going to be IP. And before I show you IP and how you can use it, let me just give you a quick understanding. There's going to be a lot of overlap between ifconfig and IP. You'll see this and go, well, why are we learning both? The reason to learn both is, well, there's many reasons. First of all, ifconfig is actually being phased out on some distributions and has to be downloaded. I think it's called like networking tools or something similar to that. I don't remember the exact name that you have to install to actually have that on some current distributions. Whereas IP is now kind of the standard and is on all Linux distributions. And another reason is because IP, while it does have some similarities with ifconfig, it actually takes things a step further. So that said, I am just going to show you the basics here. If you wanted to know more, you could always go man IP, and this will give you an exact breakdown of all the uses you can use for IP. Again, I don't have time to do that because we're going over the top 10. And while this is one of the top 10, it's not the only one. So we can't have IP hogging all the time. So that said, let's start off with IPA. And what IPA is going to do is it's going to return all the interfaces and their IP address information, both IPv4 and v6. So you see right here, we got our loopback. Down here, we got our ETH0. And we got our IPv4, IPv6. We got our MAC address. Similar to what we saw. And this is that overlap I mentioned of ifconfig and IP. So that's great, we saw that. Now another thing you can do is, let's say you wanted to call out a specific interface and you didn't want to see, let's say you had 3 different interfaces on there in the loopback and you just wanted one. So you would just go IP a show and the interface name. And there you go. Now let's take it a step further. Let's say you wanted to know just about the links or the interfaces. I should say you could go IP link and you would just hit show. And this is going to return all the interfaces without the IP information. So you get your MAC and you get your statuses up. That's good enough, right? if you, let's say you weren't worried about the IP level yet, you just wanted to know if the data link was there. Here it is. Now let's say you just wanted to know if there was any traffic crossing that link. You could actually just go IP and put a -S in front of it and hit S. This will give you some information on what's going on there. So it's going to show you, the packets, the bytes, the airdrop. So let's say you're having really bad latency. You could come in here and look, and all of a sudden you're having all these collisions or drop packets or errors. What's going on here? What's going on? So it gives you a little insight. It's not going to be as useful as like a Wireshark or TCPdump or something, but it gives you some information there. And the last thing I'll show you here is IP route. Go ahead and hit route there. And what you're going to get is you're going to get your default gateway. And then you're going to get your IP address here, your subnet. And it's a nice way to do it. You can also go route, which is actually a different command, which will give you really similar results. And you may actually like the way this looks instead of this. It might be less confusing for you. I don't know. But they both give you the same thing, telling you, this is the default gateway. This is the subnet mask. So you can see it gives you kind of similar information there. So moving on to the next command. All right, and the next networking tool I want to show you is none other than ping. And I know some of you are probably like, ping? What? I know how to use ping. Everyone knows how to use ping. And that's great. But you know what? This is a top 10 networking tools, and ping has to be a member of that list. There's no way it can't be. I use it every single day in my job, and it is great. And while maybe 99.99% of you have seen it, used it, love it, hate it, whatever, maybe there's, that 0.1% that hasn't. So we need to make them aware just in case they're missing out on this awesome command. And how we can use ping is the standard way, which is just going to be ping, and you'll put in the domain. And on Linux, when you put this in, it's going to go forever. It is letting us know that it is getting a reply back, meaning that Google is up. And again, this will go on forever. So to kill this, we're going to do a Control-C, and that will stop it. And then down here, you can see 13 packets transmitted, 13 received, no loss, average time. So now let's say we don't want this to go on for infinity. We could then go ahead and just add a -C and the count. We'll do it for 3 times. Go ahead and do this. And as you can see, it stops after 3 times. Let's say you wanted to take a step further and you wanted to send some really big packets. You could then go ahead and do a -S and then put in the size of the packet, or you wanted to send really small, whatever you wanted to do. Go ahead and hit enter, let it sit there. And as you can see, it sent a much bigger packet, got similar results. So that's how you would use ping. And again, I would use ping all the time. Use it. There's a router down, or you don't know if there's a router down. You need to know if there's a router down or a firewall, whatever. It's awesome. Use it. It deserves to be on this list. So that said, let's move on to the next command. All right, and the next command I want to show you, or tool I should say, is going to be ARP, Address Resolution Protocol. Now what this does, it allows me to resolve the IP addresses of systems or devices on my network into MAC addresses to get their hardware address. So to do this, all we're going to need to do is type in ARP-A for default. That's going to give us all of the ARP cache or ARP table. So I can see right now I don't have a lot going on in my network here, but this is going to be my default gateway. So this is probably a VirtualBox virtual switch maybe, or virtual router. And this is actually a Linux server I have up that we're going to use to test here in a minute. And then again, there's another piece of virtual hardware here. So not a lot to look at here, but this would be really useful if you had, hundreds of devices and you needed to find a specific MAC address, or if there was like, an ARP flood going on or things like that. This is when you would use this tool. Now, let's say you wanted to get this in a little bit easier to read format. You would go ahead and do ARP-N, and this will print it out in a much easier to read. You can see here's your IP address, here's the hardware type. So this is going to be Ethernet, and here's the MAC address. So that's pretty much all I wanted to show you for ARP. Again, if you needed more information, you can always do man ARP, and you can go through here because there's a lot more ways you can use ARP. But due to trying to keep this video from going about an hour over the time I allotted for it, I'm just going to show you that. So on to the next one. All right, and the next networking tool I want to show you is none other than traceroute. And if you don't know what traceroute is, I want you to think of a tool that will map through the internet your traffic you are sending between point A and point B. So think of it as a Google map in a way. You want to know how to get to this destination. You tell Google how to do it. It's going to tell you the turns along the way, stoplights and all that. Think of the same thing as your data going over the internet, or your traffic going from one router to the next hop, which may be a router, maybe a firewall, whatever. So that's what's going on. And to use this tool, we're going to just type in traceroute. And then you would put in whatever domain or IP you wanted to know how your traffic's going to pass to get there. So you go ahead and hit enter, and you will go ahead and wait. And one thing to note on Linux uses UDP, which is known as the fire and forget it protocol, meaning if we send these packets out and we don't get a response, we're not going to get any feedback. So that's why we're seeing asterisks here, because we're not getting any feedback. This could be because it's getting filtered out at one of these hops. Could be because it just went into oblivion. We're not sure. So to get around that, what we're going to need to do, we're going to need to add a hyphen and an uppercase I to tell it to use ICMP instead. So we're going to go ahead and hit enter, and we're going to see what we get. So we've already got one more hop at least. And you can see, okay, so it did go through. It didn't resolve all these. Chances are these are going to be routers or firewalls in the way, or some other reason where we're not getting results showing, the IP address of the hop it went to. But we do get the end result. And we can actually verify that that is the right place by pinging it. So let's just go to pingexample.com, and you can see it resolves to the same address. So we did get the results we wanted. Unfortunately, this doesn't work super great when we're going externally. This works great inside your own network. So if you wanted to know how your traffic was getting out from a workstation out into the internet, or even further, how it was getting to Google, you could do that. Unfortunately, in a virtual environment I am in, there's a lot of filtering going on, so I can't give you the best example here, but that's kind of the general gist of how you would use this. So moving on. All right, now getting to a more advanced command, we're going to be looking at host, not to be confused with hosts, like the host file, host, H-O-S-T. And what this is going to do is it's going to look up IP information of a domain we give it. So we're going to do host google.com, hit enter, and we're going to get results that return Google has an address of, and it gives us the IP4 address, IP6, and it even is telling us IP is using smtp google.com from mail, meaning an MX record most likely. So now let's say we wanted to take it a step further and we wanted all the information. We could add a -A in front of it and hit enter. And then you're going to go through here and you're going to get a lot more information. So you're going to get all the records. You're getting your A records, your quad A records, which are going to be your IP version 6 records, A records. You're going to get your text records. So you can see they have some for DocuSign in here. You're going to get your NS records, which are your name server records. I could go on and on and on, but you're capable of going and looking at this on your own. So pretty interesting stuff that you can get just by doing that simple command, right? So let's say we also wanted to query just a specific record. So let's say we wanted to do an NS record for Ford.com. There you go. So you wanted a text record for Ford.com. And you can go ahead and go. So you get the point. You could kind of select the records you were looking for, or you could just do the -A and get everything returned. So again, very useful tool, very powerful tool. If you wanted more information on it, man it or Google it. So let's move on to the next tool. All right, and the next tool I wanted to show you how to use is known as dig, D-I-G, like think digging a hole. And what dig's going to do is it's going to go out and I think the man page says it interrogates name servers. I mean, it's going to go out and it's going to look up information we ask it for. So it's very similar in a way to NS lookup. It has a little overlap with host, but it can stand alone on its own. It's a big boy, and it's really great to have in your toolkit. So let's bust it out and use it on. Let's dig up just standard dig to get an IP address for Ford.com. Boom, here we go. Under the answer section, these are going to be the IP addresses that Ford.com resolves to. Now, let's say we wanted to get the name servers for, let's not do Ford.com. Let's do gmac.com. And here you go. Here are our name servers. Now let's say we wanted to know the MX records for Google. Here we go. These are the name servers. Now let's say we wanted to know what the domain was that was tied to an IP address. So we're kind of doing reverse DNS right now. So let's do dig -x and here. And as you can see, it goes back to Google. We could do the same thing to Google's other name server here. Oh, and it must not be. I thought that did go to Google, but apparently this goes to level 3, which I believe is CenturyLink. So we learn something new every day. I thought 88888 and 444 were both Google, but apparently they're not. See? So pretty cool stuff. Very powerful. And I just scratched the surface. Again, you want to learn more about it, Google it or man it. There you go. Cool stuff. Moving on. All right, and the next command I want to show you is known as tcpdump. And some of you probably just cringed, ran away, while others probably like, that's a great command, I love it. The reason I say some of you may have cringed is because what tcpdump is, it is a packet capturing tool. Think Wireshark built into the command line. It can be overwhelming. And you know what, instead of just talking about it, why don't I show you? So in its most basic form, if we just run tcpdump and hit enter, it's going to capture everything on the network, all other devices. Now, I don't have a lot going on here, right? So let's go over to our friend over here. And let's go ahead and let's open up Firefox, right? And while we're doing that, why don't we ping google.com, or if I could type. Also, we'll get that going there. We'll go over here to our web browser. We're not going to do that. And we're just going to go over to Expedia, right? We want to do a little traveling. So we go back over here and you look at this and you're like, oh my God, what is going on here? How is that going to be useful to me, right? And it's not. So we need to add what are known as filters. So first, I'm going to kill this by doing Control-C. And you can see in that short amount of time, it already captured 5,200 and change packets. So that said, we need to make some sense of this, right? So what we're going to want to do is, first of all, let me go back over here, tell this guy to go away. They don't think we're DDoSing them over there. Let's go over here and go back here. And what we want to do is we're going to set up just filtering on that machine that I was just on, that Ubuntu server there. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a -v for verbose, and we're going to type in host. And host is going to be telling it to look for that specific host. So that is going to be 10.0.2.254. So that now is just going to look at that machine. So right now, if I were to ping on my machine, we're not getting any response, right? Nothing. It doesn't even notice it because it's not looking for that. So you can see the filters working. Or if I were to turn this off and go back over here, run that command again, you immediately see it's capturing that information. So you can see the filter is working where it's narrowing it down to that specific host. Once again, it's only seeing that. Now we go over here, start it up again. There you go. See what I mean? So that's how you would filter that specific thing. Now we go back over here. And let's say we only wanted to see TCP packets. What we could do is we could add to the verbose here after that, we're going to add in TCP and host. So we have to tell it we're looking for this protocol and we only want this host. So we're going to go ahead and hit this again. Now let's go over here again. Let's run this ping again. See if it shows up. Not showing up, right? Doesn't care because that is running ICMP. We don't care about ICMP. We're looking for TCP. So let's go ahead now, go over here and cancel this, and let's open up the web browser again because we know HTTPS is going to run on TCP. So let's go over here again. Let's go to Amazon this time. Let's go back over to our friend here. There it is. Check it out. Stop it here. And you can see it's capturing packets, excuse me. And if we scroll up here, it's like, this is where it gets overwhelming. Trying to see if we can see, here you go, HTTPS. So that is TCP as we know. So it's doing exactly what we told it to. Whoops. So last thing I will show you is how we can actually take this and redirect it. And again, instead of TCP, you could tell it to look for ICMP if you wanted to just look for ping or other packets, or other protocols, I should say. So, but let's say we wanted to take all that information and put it into a file that we could actually open Wireshark and take a look at it with. And we can do that. And how you do that is you do tcpdump, same command here. But instead of that, what we're going to do is we are going to go with a -w and whatever you want to name the file. So I'm just going to go test1 pcap because that is what Wireshark is going to want. And we're going to do it on, I'm going to do it on the whole entire network. So I'll just do network and I'm going to do 020/24. So that's my whole entire network. And then I'm going to create a little bit of chaos here. So we're going to let this run. We're going to go over here and let's start up this ping. Well, we go to Amazon Basic. Let's get this guy going here. Go back over here. Whoops. Over here. If I could select the right window and ping for a minute here. We'll let it do its thing. And then we'll be done here. And let's go ahead and stop this. Okay. So now if we look in here, we're going to have this test pcap, right? So let's go ahead and make this bigger. Now here's the funny thing. If you do this and you do test1.pcap, it's going to look like you're going to go, how am I going to use that? Yeah, and you're not. So what you're going to need to do is open up Wireshark. Whoops. Once you get rid of that, you're going to open up Wireshark. And what you're going to do is you're going to go File, and you're going to go Open. And you're going to look for our little file here, and you're going to go Open. And you're going to maximize this. And look how much easier that is to read. Go through there, you can see everything. You can see the source, destination, and you could go through here, and of course you could go in and you could expand. You could look at the frames. I mean, you can do everything you could do normally with Wireshark at this point. So pretty powerful stuff you can do there. You can also obviously throw that into scripts because you're using this from the command line. Lots of use cases for tcpdump and a very powerful tool. So let's move on to the next one. All right, and we're going to slow things down a little bit after that tcpdump. That was a little intense for me. And we're going to look at a tool known as netstat. Netstat can do a lot, from showing interfaces, routing tables, everything we can do with ifconfig or IP. Netstat can do, but it doesn't have the capabilities to assign IP addresses and things like that, but it allows you to view them. It also allows you, more importantly, to see who's connecting to you on what ports and if it's an active connection. And it also allows you to see on your machine what is open, what is listening for connections. So, reverse backdoors, things like that, of that nature, reverse shells. So anyway, enough chat. Let's just go ahead and show you. So the most basic form to look for those connections is going to be netstat-a. And this is going to give you everything that's connected to you. And you can see right here under listening or under state, this is listening. So right here, we're listening. Over here, we're connected. And these are all internal Linux processes. So this isn't anything I'm worried about. Up here, I'm looking over here, we have, this is connected on UDP. This is totally normal. That's actually myself. And then we just have something going on there. Nothing to worry about there. So we're okay there. Nothing to worry about there. So let's say we wanted to look for TCP connections and we wanted to do it continuously. Because right now, if I were to just look for TCP connections, there's nothing going on. But if I were to open this up and let it load, because as we know, HTTP and HTTPS run over TCP, we're going to go ahead and we should be able to see some connections using TCP. All of this is okay because it's all over HTTP, HTTPS, and that's expected. Now let's say we wanted this to continually update. All you need to do is add a C on the end and it will continually update. So as I am browsing the web and going over here, I'm going to get an updated netstat right here. So as you can see, that's what netstat's going to do for you. And all of a sudden, let's say you're looking for this and you should not have any TCP connections open, or you shouldn't have an HTTP connection. And all of a sudden you're seeing this. This is going to be a big red flag. Why is that established and connected to me? But the cool thing is you can then take this port and you can go on the firewall and block it. Whatever, you're gonna have bigger problems at that point, but you know this can be used to go and help you eradicate and contain those connections that shouldn't be there. So scary stuff thinking about that, but this is a great tool, and I've used this many times when I've had malware that has infected machines and I need to get it out. This is what I can use to do it. So check it out, and on to the last one. All right, and we're gonna end the video on curl, an awesome tool to go out and fetch if you just want to grab the HTML from a website, or if you want to combine it with grep and go out and look for email addresses. There's other tools that do a better job of that, like the harvester. Curl's awesome. So you know what, enough talking, let me just show you what it can do. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna use curl, and we're gonna go against scammy.mmap.com. And I think it's actually a .org. So we're gonna change that, and we're gonna pull it up here. And here you go, it gives us a return. You can see the HTML here, and that's all great, right? Now that's a little bit overwhelming. Let's say we just wanted to capture the header information, because that's where we're gonna get like the version of the web server it's running, and maybe even the operating system. So what you would need to do is you would want to do curl-v, not -l, that's what I get for trying to be lazy, -x, and there we go. We're going to do the .org here. So we're going to do -x head for header, and we're going to run it. And it gives you a warning here saying it may not work. It worked. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here and look, here's a server. It's running Apache this version. This is the OS. Pretty cool stuff, right? That gives us a lot of information of one little command. And then let's say we wanted to take all that information we got back by running this command, which is overwhelming right here. Let's say we wanted to throw it into a file that we could then open up. Sure, we can do that, not a problem. So what we would do is we would do curl-o, and what we're going to do is we are going to tell this to go to a location that I'll be able to open up, because I won't be able to open up Firefox using root. So we're going to need to redirect that to a place where I'll be able to open it. And let's do this. See, it's there. Okay, and the reason I said, well, if I go ahead and do this, that's why we had to do it. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and go over here. Come on. And we need to make sure it's here. And now we can go Firefox. Oops. Oh, it's working. Test curl.html, hit enter. It will open up Firefox. And here's a copy of that web page we just ripped down from the internet. Pretty awesome stuff, right? So that's pretty cool. And let's see, is there anything else? Oh, I did want to mention because I found this out the hard way. If you're trying to go to, like, you want to curl google.com, right? And you go there and it gives you this moved. 301 is an error code for a redirection. So we don't take no for an answer, right? Because we're Nielsen Network in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go curl, and we're going to go -v for verbose, and we're going to go with -l, and then we're going to go with google.com. And there we go. There's obviously some JavaScript and other things in here. So this is one you'd want to redirect again to a HTML file or a text file, whatever you want to do, to actually then go back and parse it. But as you can see, it did give us what we wanted to get to. So pretty cool stuff. And on that note, I think we are about done. We've gone over 10 plus because we've had a couple extra bonus tools in there and commands. So that's going to be the end of this video. I hope you've appreciated it, and you know the drill. If you have, I would greatly appreciate a like and subscribe for more content. I plan to keep putting out more information that hopefully is helping you all along, and I've been trying to do it in, kind of chronological order to help you as you progress. If you're, someone that's learning through these videos, or if you're someone that just needs to get a refresher on some of this. So other than that, have a great day. Thank you.